information, powerful knowledge that can move us from the mundane platform to the transcendental platform. Today, we are going to take up shloka number 2.30. Now, this verse is actually the conclusion of the soul science that Krishna has been telling to Arjun in the past few verses, starting from 2.11 to 2.30. Now, just to go reminiscing down, in the first chapter, Arjun gives so many different arguments for not fighting. And the first one out of them was that I am feeling compassionate towards my relatives, towards my teacher, towards my grandfather. And that's the reason why, that I will be the reason for their death. And that compassion is stopping me to fight. Well, there are 5 reasons, but the first one was this. Now, this reason of compassion that Arjun gives, Krishna actually puts to rest all the doubts that can be held in Arjun's mind about this particular, reason for not fighting. Now, we saw starting from, in fact, in the verse number 1, we will see that Prabhupada mentions real compassion is not really, having to save somebody's body, because body is only a very temporary part of our existence. We are souls. So saving the soul is real compassion, not saving the body. Now Krishna makes it very clear to Arjun in so many verses that we are not bodies, we are souls. And he gives Arjun a lot of information for which Srila Prabhupada has given us wonderful purports, and he has cited evidence from various literatures like the Upanishads to help us make this, image complete, to make the understanding of the soul complete in our minds. So, let us see today what Krishna concludes in 2.30, but first let's say the prayers. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjan Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So let's read out 2.30. Dehi nityam avadhyoyam Dehi sarvasya bharata Tasmat sarvani bhutani Natvam shochitum arhasi. Once again Krishna tells Arjun, Natvam shochitum arhasi. You do not need to grieve or lament for any living being. This is something that Krishna has been repeating in the past few verses. He's telling us that any cause that we see for lamentation in this material world is not really a cause for lamentation, because the reality is much above what we see in this material world. Srila Prabhupada translates this verse as follows. O descendant of Bharata, he who dwells in the body can never be slain. Therefore, you need not grieve for any living being. Now, the word Dehi, Deha means this sharir, this body, whereas Dehi means one who occupies the body. There is a general connotation. We many times say that I have a soul. My body has a soul. There is a soul inside the body. Truly speaking, the situation is that this soul has a body, which means the possessor of the body is the soul and not the other way around. But we are so fixed with the bodily conception, we so much identify with the external gross body that we only think in terms or in respect to the external gross body. But the situation is that this soul, it takes on this body, So the soul is the possessor of the body, and therefore the Sanskrit word Dehi is so relevant here, so speaking, so revealing that our real identity is that of the soul. Now, Srila Prabhupada again has given us a very, very wonderful purport here. It's short, but it concludes what Krishna has been telling Arjun. Srila Prabhupada says that Arjun should not abandon his duty as a Kshatriya because he is not a body. And by thinking that he is a body and thinking in terms of material conception in the material world, if Arjun does not do his duty, he will be, I would say he would fall from his position. He will fall from the position of being a Kshatriya. Now, the acts that we commit in our life, the karma that we do here, is what is going to decide what is going to be our further destination in future lives. Reincarnation is a fact. It is something which we cannot deny. The soul will move on. It will give up this body and move on to another one. And the second body, the next body that is, will be determined by what karma, what desires we have been harboring in our hearts in this life. And therefore, if we are abandoning our duty in this position, suppose Arjun here is a Kshatriya, so if he doesn't do the duty of the Kshatriya, that means he is falling from his duty and therefore he will fall from his position. In the next life, he will not get the birth of a Kshatriya. He will get the birth of somebody who is lower down in the ladder, like maybe a Shudra or maybe a Vaishya, or maybe not even that, We may even descend down, we may even fall down to the lower species of life. There are 8.4 million of them, and we have climbed that ladder up to get this human birth, which is very precious, because only in the human birth the consciousness is budding enough. That means it is high enough for us to understand who we are, who God is, and what is our relationship with God. And therefore, if we say give up this life without making this inquiry into the universal facts that we need to know, we would have wasted this life. Now, Srila Prabhupada tells us that definitely life comes from the soul. The soul is what gives life to the bodies. Soul symptomizes. The symptom of soul is the consciousness, and therefore life does not arise out of any combination of materials or chemicals on this earth. Dead matter can be enlivened only by the soul. And though, of course, Srila Prabhupada ends by saying that violence is never recommended, but it is recommended if it is the will of the Lord to commit violence in order to restore dharma. So when, we have heard that famous slok, that Krishna descends on this earth when there is a lot of adharma here. And therefore to restore dharma, he has to come to this earth. And therefore when Krishna says that now is the time to fight, to destroy all who are propagating adharma, then it is right to do violence. But as Srila Prabhupada points us, it should not be done capriciously, irresponsibly, because of my whims and fancies. We are nobody to decide in what situation violence is right. We will be able to decide only if we have the vision of God through the Shastras, through the scriptures. So this wonderful verse sums up why Krishna is telling us, Arjun, that your compassion towards your relatives is misplaced. This is not the reason you shouldn't be fighting. In fact, in the further verses, Krishna is going to put an end to all the other arguments as well. But let's make a quick summary of what we have learnt about the soul in the previous verses. Number 1, the soul is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. That means sometime in eternity, which we cannot imagine, we have emanated from him, just like sparks emanate from fire. So the soul is of a similar quality, just like sparks are of similar quality as the fire. But in terms of quantity, it's nowhere to compare. We are very much less quantitatively, but similar qualitatively to God, which means we also have similar qualities as God. And therefore, the soul, which is completely a spiritual entity, made up of spiritual atoms called spiriton, is eternal, which means it can never be destroyed by any weapon. Remember, no weapon, water cannot rot it, wind cannot dry it. So it can never be destroyed. So it is eternal. It is knowledgeable, which means it has the knowledge, but it is liable to be covered by illusion because of its smallness, because of its tiny nature. And therefore Krishna always comes with the soul as Paramatma to guide it. And third, it is completely blissful. The nature of the soul is to be happy, to be blissful. But when we are not blissful, it means that we are not in our real elements. We are identifying with something which is not our original nature. Now comes the fact, where does the soul live, originally? Actually, since soul is a spiritual entity and all the rest that we see here is material, we are not really compatible to this world, which means we do not originally belong to this world. We belong to the spiritual world, the Vaikunthas, where the Lord resides in his many avatars. So why did we come here? Well, let's compare God to sun. So till the time we are facing sun, we are in complete light of knowledge. But when the jiva, that means the soul, the spirit soul like us, turns away from Krishna, turns away from God, then he is plunged into the world of shadows. Isn't that analogy very appropriate? Because shadows are formed when we are away from the sun, away from the source of light. So we will be delved into the world of shadows if we turn away from God or Krishna. So because of some reason or the other, we have turned away from Krishna. We turned away from God. And that's the reason Krishna created this shadow world or the material world for us to play with shadows. Now in this world, everything is a perverted reflection, as we will study in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Everything in this world is a perverted reflection of what is present in the spiritual world. And this world was created by Krishna for us Jivatmas to play with the shadows. It's like, playing, it's like children trying to create a home for themselves, using toys. Let's play, let's play, let's get some toys, let's cook for ourselves, So we keep ourselves busy by, toying with the small utensils, trying to cook something in it and then acting to eat. Wow, this is very nice. But there comes a time when the children get tired of playing with toys and they rush back to their mother. Mama, please give us food. Because the toy food, the fake food that we are playing with will not satisfy our hunger. And that's the position that we are in. We are playing with shadows. We are playing with the material toys here. But nothing here in this world can satisfy the hunger that we have in our hearts. That can be satisfied only by interacting with the supreme spiritual entity that is Lord Krishna. So, by living, millions of lifetimes in this world, spending life after life after life, sometimes as a plant, sometimes as a fish, sometimes as some other organism, we finally get to the human birth. And then also in human birth, by this, I would say, the conjecture of karma and desire, action and desire, kam and karma. Kam means desire and karma means action. So this kam and karma, desire and action, it's a network that keeps us entangled life after life, and the soul keeps transmigrating from one body to another, trying to satisfy its desires and, say, limited by its karma, So this is how, by alternating bhog and tyag, sometimes we try to enjoy something, but some time later we are just not satisfied with the same thing. How often have you experienced that? That at one point of time we are so enamored by enjoying a certain thing or an event or a person, but sometime later we just get bored with it and then we just give it up. So this is called the alternating cycle of bhog and tyag. So we have been doing this endlessly from don't know how many lifetimes. And sometime when we get into knowledge by the causeless mercy of the Lord's devotees, by somehow coming in contact with transcendental literatures like the Bhagavad Gita, we start to realize our position of not being in the place we were originally meant to be in, and therefore we can never be happy in this place. So this is, in gist, the knowledge that Krishna is trying to give Arjuna, that do not identify yourself too much with your life here, too much with the relations that identify with your body, Arjuna. Ultimately, just do your duty and get out of this net of Maya, of illusion. So that's all for today. From tomorrow, we will see how Krishna is going to convince Arjuna by using different arguments. The next one that comes up is the enjoying argument. Remember, Arjuna said, then I will not be able to enjoy. Who will I enjoy the feats with, my win, my victory with, if all my relatives are lost from me? So he is now going to tackle the enjoyment argument by telling Arjuna about karma kand, karma yoga. So originally what we studied from 11 to 30 is what we call jnana, or knowledge of self-realization. Now Krishna will be moving on to another kind of argument, and let's see what he has to say next time. Till then, please chant Hare Krishna and be happy.